Nour Nation, what's going on? I'm Nour Solomon, and today we gonna get into it. I promise. Today we're here to talk about separating ourselves from others. Why is this needed? Why must we do this? The main reason behind it is it's required to grow. If you're interested in evolving, growing, and ascending, you will find yourself at a place where you will feel like you may be outgrowing some people around you or just growing apart. You're going to find that sometimes your ideals and your beliefs and your understanding, some people aren't in that spiritual place yet. They haven't necessarily taken the spiritual steps to get to the point where you are at. And when you begin to hold on to those particular people, you'll find yourself being pulled and hindered. So it is a necessity when you feel that you are coming to a place where you're outgrowing friends, family, things of that nature. You have to separate yourself from them. Now, there's particular people, obviously, you don't want to separate yourself from. You have immediate family, you know, like your mother or father, grandmother. That's understandable. The difference is you have to be a communicator. You have to let them know that you are growing, and self-progression is part of the process. We're here to continue to advance. So once you get your family aboard on that understanding, it should be easier. But be patient and be understanding, because sometimes, especially family, they will always or somewhat see you the way you were before. Now, I find it ironic because one of my favorite guys who I love to watch is Dandapani, and he is a monk that stayed in a monastery, I want to say for like 8 years, and he ended up leaving the monastery and he actually came to America and he created a lifestyle or business off of his lifestyle per se, and is teaching others pretty much monk techniques and also giving the knowledge and the understanding behind it. But one thing he said was interesting, and that was when a monk finally gets done with the contract and they decide to actually leave the monastery, they tell them not to go back home. Go somewhere new. And it made perfect sense. The reason why they tell them this is because even though it's been 8 years for him, when he goes back home, he's still Dandapani. He's still the same person that he was when he left him. When he goes to see his mother, she's still going to look at him like, that's my son. You know, go see your father, that's my son. Where in actuality, in reality, he is the grown man. He is nothing like who he was before and how they remembered him. So they would still expect certain things, certain reactions, certain habits from him as if he were who he was 8 years ago. It's hard to break that thought process for somebody that's known you for so long, especially some people that have known you for your whole life. So it can be hindering to your spirit and hindering to your growth when you have people that are looking at you or expecting the same things and same habits and same actions as if you were living 5 or 6 years ago. So the way you react to something now will be not close to how you used to react to something 6, 7 years ago. You know, you put a lot more thought into it. You know, you probably wouldn't react as irate if it was a situation that would cause, you know, you to get frustrated, because you have more understanding, you have more knowledge, you have more patience. And what you find is when people expect a certain reaction or action from you, they respond before you even react, which causes a whole nother situation. So to avoid all of that, they actually send the monks to somewhere new. So when people get to know them, they only know who they just met. The you at that particular moment. The evolved Dandapani. So when it comes to friends and even distant relatives, if you find yourself where you figure that you actually don't need those people in your life because one, they're a hindrance, and two, they still think of you as the older you, then it's probably time to cut them off. If it's not beneficial for your life at that moment and it's not helping you progress, then it's okay to cut them off, because everybody advances at different times. So you can't speed up their process, nor can you speed up their understanding. You can give somebody a ton of knowledge, a plethora of knowledge, but until they're ready to actually listen and receive it, all they hear is babble. So be okay with separating yourself from those that aren't benefiting you. And if it is somebody that actually is closer to you, like your mother or your father, then you have to communicate that to them. You have to explain to them and elucidate clearly where you're coming from, and let them know that you're not who they remember you as. And they're going to have to start trying to see you for who you are now, rather than see you for who you were. That's going to take a lot of communication as well as growth and maturity from both parties, if they want to stay in your life, of course. Now, obviously, somebody could get offended and they might basically opt out of being in your life if you made them an ultimatum like that. But it is what it is, because this is a life of advancement. That's what we're here to do. We're here to grow. And trust, I know that most likely your parents and your immediate family, they love you. So they're going to want to be there in part of the process too, and they'll be understanding. But you have to be able to separate yourself and be okay with the fact that you have grown. One of the hugest misconceptions, especially in the African American community, is that they hold on to keeping it real, not forgetting where you came from. That's all good. You shouldn't forget where you came from. If you came out of poverty, black, white, Asian, Mexican, Spanish, Puerto Rican, great. Obviously, you don't forget your heritage. Obviously, you don't forget where you came from. You know, it's part of who you are. But the keeping it real part, where you have to go back and stay there and be in the midst of all the nonsense and the hindrances just to keep the appearance of keeping it real. It's cool to go back and take them out and take somebody with you and try to bring them up and give them the knowledge and give them the understanding. But if you're still caught in the hood doing the same thing, then obviously that's when keeping it real goes wrong. You got to be able to know how to separate yourself, how to take yourself out of any situation where you will be looked at as if you were still 4 or 5 years ago. Because that is the perception that you want them to have. You want them to have the perception of you now, not who you were before. So don't be afraid, Nour Nation. Don't be afraid to separate yourself from others that are hindering your progress. Don't be afraid to communicate to others, to let them know that you aren't who they remember you as, and you've grown. And know that that is part of the process. In order to move forward, we cannot be looking backwards. Nour Nation, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Peace and light. And make sure you subscribe. Make sure you hit that like button. And make sure you leave a comment. And don't forget to get my new book, MasterMind, The Art of Manifesting Your Dreams into Reality. I'm Nour Solomon from We Are Masterminds, and we believe in you.